This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life you love. And we are flipping the tables today. So I'm here and joined by Tom Durkin. Tom, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
So as we typically do during book club, there's a book, there's an interview, and there's an interviewee and an interviewer, and that's what we're switching. So I've read the book, and honestly, this bears some revealing. I've actually listened to the book. Alexa read it to me. How nice of her. And Tom's going to ask me the question. So in fairness, I had to do my own show intro, and I'll do the show intro. I think you should have to introduce yourself today.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's see. My name's Tom Durkin. We know that much. I've been in fitness for 40 years. We started fitness centers 40 years ago, so I've done every job in the fitness center. I am currently owner-operator.
Seen taking out the trash the other day, I hear.
That's right. I do it all. So I'm in 5 different buildings every single day, encounter many employees every day and many members. So the idea behind this book review is I'm looking back over a 40-year career. And so the selections of the books and the questions and the answers are based on my experiences. And so one of the reasons that I was excited about doing this and wanted to do and pester Deborah to do this was I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I wish I would have had this information available 40 years ago because my career would have been much easier and I've made a lot less mistakes and had a lot less pain and suffering. So I've not read this book, as Deborah mentioned. She has listened to it. And so I do have some questions for her. And so that's where the questions or my attitude or my demeanor on some of these material comes from real life experience. And so I think that's valuable. And I'd like to share that with you this morning.
Awesome. All right. So the book today is The Obesity Code by Dr. Jason Fung. I will link to that in the show notes. And in fact, I'll link to where you can either choose to get the book if you're a reader and love to flip back the corners, and I do too, or most recently, this I listened to, and it was really kind of different to have Alexa. Alexa has a different kind of tone and fluctuation, let me tell you. She's not very emotional, but that was a great way to consume the book as well. So Dr. Jason Fung, just to let everybody know, is a Canadian doctor expert on intermittent fasting and low carb for treating people with type 2 diabetes. So just now you know what we're looking at. There's a little sidetrack. We often look at a business-related book or something that can get you as an entrepreneur motivated about what you're doing, working with other people internally and externally in your business. And this is, a little different slant on how we really do what we do and the bigger part of why are we not quite as successful with the population.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, here's my first question, and I'm always curious. So what really drew you to this book? I mean, how did you select it? What's your mindset there?
I have to give credit to a friend of mine who shared this book with me. And I think it came up again 3 times with different people wanting to do a book club about it among functional doctors and health experts that I work with. And it was finally like, this is like the universe is sending me a message. I need to read this book. And I heard a little tidbit. We all, I think, know that we tend to go and follow the experts who are going the direction we're already going. So there you go. Disclaimer, there is quite a bit of talk about the influence of hormones on obesity. And as many of you know, on my consumer side, Flipping 50 is all about hormone balancing exercise, the hormones, not the calories that we need to focus on. And there was a little bit of that. And I knew I needed to read it. Whether he agreed or disagreed, I needed to know it.
Okay, very good. Well, let's unpack this a little bit. What did you like about the book?
I really liked the fact that, and again, maybe it was Alexa, but it was a neutral relaying of facts. And it wasn't anybody trying to sway or persuade me, this is the way you need to believe, or this is the way you need to eat, or this is the way you need to exercise. It was kind of literally, here's this state of where we're at. This is what's happening. And we know that this is contributing. It was just, citing research. He isn't advocating for one perfect solution. He isn't beginning with an argument or persuasive speech, wanting the buyer to buy into his plan. It's validating some of the news you hear and debunking the simplicity of calories alone without consciously addressing the quality of food. And it looks at the relationship between hormones influenced by food and the result being fat storage.
Wow, that sounds good. So it looks like this book was divided into to 6 sections or something. Can you say a little bit about each section? I mean, I didn't read it, and so can you just kind of give me an overview on each one? Isn't there 6 sections?
There is 6 sections, and that's part of what I like about this book is, I could have picked it up and I could have, you probably don't want to go to part 6 of the solution, or maybe you do, but without the rest. But I could have gone to, the calorie deception part. I could have gone to, the social phenomenon of obesity, and didn't have to necessarily start at the beginning, but historically and chronologically, that makes sense. Part 1 is the epidemic, and it, explores during the last, 10 or 15 years ago. I was saying it was 25 or 30 years. This actually started when we went to low fat, no fat things. We also, now that we look back, we can see there's a direct correspondence with the increase of obesity. So it goes through all of that, and it also talks about a patient's family history and sheds some light on underlying causes for obesity, all of them. Society's influence, food industry's influence on it, and genetics. And then there's the calorie deception, what I alluded to earlier, that, it's not just calories in, calories out. We really have shortcomings with that kind of equation. And then here's the new model, and it really introduces the hormonal theory of obesity and, gives a robust explanation of obesity as a medical problem. And I think it's really important we all know that when things first come out in research, it may be 20 years. That's about the average before it reaches mainstream. And so it's worthwhile to pay attention to a random study, provided it was big enough. And maybe there's a small pilot that's followed up. But there's some information there that, all of this is not really new news, but it's new in that it's out there now and it's mainstream. But we should have been talking about this 20 years ago to really make a difference. And he highlights some of that. The social phenomena considers how hormonal obesity theory explains some of the associations with it, and poverty, and what about childhood obesity, and what do we do about that? Then there's what's wrong with our diet, looking at fat, protein, carbohydrates, and what's their effect. And really, this one is one to dig into: fructose. Fructose seems to be a big problem. So if I don't get the chance to say this again, sweet fat is your customer's biggest problem.
That's good.
Solution. He looks at the solution and, of course, kind of ends with that. Now, I told you at the beginning, though, he's an expert in intermittent fasting. He does, conclude that with just some very minimal information that has been proven to show for people with type 2 diabetes or with pre-diabetes as a diagnosis. Intermittent fasting is effective in treating insulin, but he doesn't slam that down your throat the whole book. It's really just an addition. He's laying the foundation for questions and digging further. And I really liked the way he treated all the content.
Wow, that sounds like a great book. I better read it. You know, one of my things, Deborah, I'm always trying to do is give more information and material to the trainers that I work with and I see every day. So, is there anything that jumps out at you in this book in particular that you think that would be noteworthy for trainers in this book? That, I mean, if they didn't read the whole book, if is there any something that would jump out at you that you think you'd like to hit on?
There's probably one topic for sure that comes to mind with trainers in general, and I know some of our listeners are way ahead of the curve and they already are examining this for their clients. But whey protein, for the longest time, has been one of the absolute favorites. If we're trying to get our clients to make sure that they eat enough protein or consume it and do it at the right time, and maybe that it's rapidly absorbed and it will not weigh down somebody's stomach pre or post a workout, we go to whey protein notoriously. And I think our newbie customers, that's the easiest to find. If they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to ask or who to ask, inevitably, I would say 9 out of 10 times, they're going to be recommended a whey protein powder. Well, whey protein can raise insulin levels higher than whole wheat bread. And you may not realize this, but whole wheat bread raises it significantly. So a whey protein, in fact, dairy can do the same thing. It doesn't matter, if we're talking about cheese or cream or milk, and we're not pointing a finger at dairy as a bad thing necessarily. Everybody should test it for themselves, but I think we do have to pay attention to how much the dairy industry actually contributes to government and guidelines coming out saying you need dairy and you've got to have that for calcium. Not necessarily true and been disproved many times. But when we have insulin spikes from eating food, especially something that we're trying to take in to make us better, that's problematic because we're contributing to the problem. So we've really got to look closely at whey protein and
Mm-hmm.
and back to the combination of carbohydrates and fat. I mentioned sweet fat, so a piece of chocolate cake may actually not just be a piece of chocolate cake you want to pass off for someone, because it does more than just, be a cake that you have some and then you forget it. And, good coaching tips to work with a client. But the problem is it also causes cravings for more of the same. And that really, hands down gets stored as fat. When you combine sugar and fat, we're really barking down the wrong place. It's got fructose in it, and a lot of the problems with many of those whey protein powders, they have fructose in them. So we need to be label reading clearly. There are a lot of those MLLs or MLM kind of programs that push protein, and in their ingredients is fructose that actually makes you store fat. So the very reason you're taking it is probably to decrease fat, increase lean, and you're not going to be able to do that.
Wow. That is a good tip for these trainers. So, the $1 million question is, would you recommend this book to health coaches or personal trainers? I mean, what kind of grade would you give this thing? I mean, is this a must read that these trainers should have on their bookshelf?
It's a definite must read, and
Okay.
not just for every fitness professional. I think it's for every student, every client. This is a great book club read. And I'm a big fan of doing something like that, creating some kind of community, whether you're doing it online or you're doing it in your business, getting conversations started and being okay with there's going to be controversy about this. And maybe we won't solve the problem during our lifetime. The paradox between should we eat plants or should we eat animal protein? We're not going to solve that one. And we may not solve this obesity problem either, but the conversation is the important part. And, having respect for letting your customers voice their opinions and their questions and try to understand what are the factors for them. I think, there's a lot of potential growth, not just in your business overall, but in the sense of community when you create interactions like that.
Mm-hmm. Um, you bring up community, and that brings me to my next question. I've always had difficulty for 40 years trying to, I don't know, for lack of a better word, create a community with books, like a book like this, or the books that we've reviewed, and share them. I mean, and as far as whether it's in the personal training department or, there's just a lot of good material out there that I wish these trainers would, pick up these books, read, listen to your podcast. Do you have any ideas? Because I'm stuck. Do you have any or a couple of ideas as far as how personal training departments could create any kind of community with books and share these? Or do you have any ideas on anything like that?
Yeah, just when you're asking probably for very practical ideas, how would you implement that? I think, first of all, I would see how many people might be interested. So I would do a poll and a survey,
Mm-hmm.
like a 3-question survey to your people. It's the best way to, number one, find out, are you running some flag up a poll nobody wants? And don't do that.
Right.
But they love to give their opinions, and you're not asking them about an opinion about a program they would have to buy. So this is super, it's very different. It's like, who would be interested in a book club, and would you like that book club to be virtual, where we meet online at your convenience, from telephone or internet, or would you like it to be, in the gym, at a maybe at a 6:30 on a certain evening, so that's right after one of your busy classes and busy workout times, and they can come in and get a refreshment or something. I think you give them the
Mm-hmm.
options of how you're going to do that, and then you let them tell you, you know, is this something you should consider? And, I think you also might want to say, who are your most active people? So you might send that to your buyers list first,
Mm-hmm.
and take care of them really well. And then maybe you also then segment it to the other lists. That way, who's responding more positively. Those people who haven't bought and they just want free things. And maybe they are looking for a way to connect. It might be a good way to bring people in and closer to your trainers, and or take better care and nurture your buyers already with a pretty, low cost way to get them in, and then you can reach out if you find out how many you've got. If you've got a big enough number, can you go to the publisher or the author and say, I'd love to do a book club featuring your book. Would you give us a discount as a way we can get that? Because that
Mm-hmm.
may be a possibility. And, say we'd be willing to share it online in the comments for our group online, and, give them some publicity. That's helpful. And I think the other win there is, you know, if you've got a trainer who that topic, they work with weight loss in clients in specific, or that's their niche, maybe you've got a nutritionist on board who wants to get involved, let those people step up if they'd like to take it. And it puts them in a leadership role that they might enjoy. And, so I would ask that too of your staff and poll them, is this something you'd like to do? Like, lead a book club. Have you read a good book that, you think all your clients should read? And, create a little template, I think, within. So then you've got a little control, and then all they need to do is fill it out. And, here's the agenda for the book club meeting. And here are the things we're going to share with them, top 3 points, concepts. And then you've kind of taken care of it. But great way to get people involved. I've had one person ever in 30 years come up to tell me, and this is in the last 6 since I wrote "You Still Got It, Girl," the After
Mm-hmm.
50 fitness formula for women. A woman said, "I read your book in my book club in my fitness center, and I said, wow,
Wow.
that's pretty cool.
That is.
So, it is community and people are doing it. I kind of did a little search on the club, and it's a small privately owned club, and it's not tiny, and they're really reaching out to do some things and get people going.
Man, those are great ideas. I can see why you're so successful here. You're pretty good at this. Uh, hey, well, so, I think I'm going to read the Obesity Code. I mean, you're recommending it, and I thought you did a good job of explaining it and unpacking it. And so I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to try and take some of your ideas here and try and implement them in my world. So, I like to grade things 1 through 10, 10 being great, 1 being not so good. So just give me a number on this Obesity Code compared to all the other books that you've read as far as for content and as far as, when we talk about trying to help our trainers and move things forward, what number would you give Obesity Code?
I give it a 9.
Okay.
And the reason I give it a 9 and not a 10 is just that, darn it, it didn't solve the problem. Obesity is not going away. I think it had to be done because, it had to be done and relay, that here's on this side, here's on that side, here's possible solutions, and here's conflicting research, about what dairy does or doesn't do. I mean, he did a great job of being on both sides and being fair to, there isn't a conclusion yet. There's a unique set of problems. And so it's really nothing on the writing, nothing on the author or the book itself. It's just, we still don't know exactly what the cause is and what the solution is, but we've got some insights. So I'm hoping he's got a follow-up book coming, and I'll read it for sure.
Wow. Well, that's great. Well, you've done a very good job this morning. You've answered all my questions. And so, yeah, so I think, as flawed as this method is, I'm going to give you a 10 on on your answers, and I'm going to give myself a 10 on being the interviewer. And of course I would. What book are we going to do next?
Well, you and I talked in the green room. Are we committing to the $1 trillion coach?
We can. I'm not finished it. Matter of fact, I've just got it started, and so I'm not into it deep enough yet to know what's going on. But we can commit to it if you'd like. Sure.
Okay, we'll commit. We're doing the $1 trillion coach, so we're back to business, really. All right. For next time, that'll be it. Thanks so much, Tom, for being here, interviewing me.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Fitness pros, if you have a question or a comment, or if you've read the Obesity Code, leave your comment below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/obesity code. That's obesity-code. And I would appreciate it if you'd leave us a rating in iTunes. It really helps. Check out the blog and other podcast episodes besides fitnessmarketingmastery.com/obesity code. And until next time, make a difference.